So today I'm here with Felix Joseph. Felix joining me from Spain. Great to see you, Felix. And I wonder, could you tell me a bit about your latest book?
Thank you so much for having me, Richard. I really appreciate being invited here. Um, so my book is called How to Buy a Property in Spain. And effectively, the aim of the book is to help people buy properties in Spain, particularly overseas people, so people from the UK, English-speaking people from other parts of Europe or the world, help them to buy property in Spain as safely and securely and stress-free as possible.
Excellent. And you've experience of that, haven't you? Because you were, did you say you were a real estate agent before?
Absolutely. I mean, we've been here, living here in Andalusia, or about half an hour from Marbella. We've been here since 2006, so 14 years. And in my time here, I've been a property investor in Spanish property, as well as a real estate agent, property sourcing, a mortgage broker, and now I'm finally a property consultant, which is my way of bringing all these, all my knowledge of Spanish property together. And, you know, just having a service that allows myself to help people right from the outset of researching property, right through to walking out of a notary with their keys. And that is effectively what the aim of the book is to do. There has been, you know, very poor incidents of people coming out to buy Spain. In a best case scenario, they have unnecessary frustrations and it's more difficult or stressful than it really needs to be as a process, or would be if somebody was taking care of the buyer and guiding them through the process. And in the worst case scenario, people have genuinely lost their life savings and gone back to the UK in ruins. And every time I've seen something like that, when I was unable or not in a position to help, it's been absolutely soul destroying. So I wanted to write a book that allowed me to use all my knowledge and experience to guide people literally from the very initial research when they first think, oh, it might be interesting to think about buying a property in Spain or retiring in Spain. That would guide them through that process, guide them through the interaction with all the agencies they need to work with, right through to the end of the process where they've got the property, they walk out the notary with the escritura, they've got their house keys, and they've done the whole thing safely and as stress-free as possible.
Yes, and you've been, obviously that's from your experience. And if you were speaking to someone coming from the UK then and looking to buy in Spain, what would your advice be?
To people from the UK thinking of buying a property in Spain, absolutely. You can probably hear my dog in the background here. It's a wonderful thing about being on the terrace. They say never work with children or animals. Well, I can assure you, never work with mine. My advice to Brits buying overseas, two main things. Like anything, is do as much research as possible. So I actually make a point in the book, you know, willfully being boring, going over how much you need to research. And once I've done a section of research, I'll do it again, which people think is just me being lazy, but I actually want to really get that point across that you've got to take your time and do the research. And the other thing I'm going to say, I always just tell the truth, as unpopular as it is don't just rely on other Brits. It's the biggest mistake that a lot of people make when they're overseas, not just in Spain buying property, but pretty much anywhere. And I've traveled a fair amount of the world, to make an assumption that somebody's from the same background as you means that they're competent or that they're going to guide you in the right way. You know, it's a normal scenario. Birds of a feather flock together. The problem is the scam artists and the unscrupulous people, they know that. And that's the reason, that's one of the ways that they can bring you in and you can be taken in. So when I'm saying doing research, it's great for birds of a feather to flock together, but you really have to try and make sure you're researching the best person to do that job as well. Okay.
And I know you've made the distinction in the book between sort of the estate agent and the other people involved in a transaction like that. So can you, because having been one yourself, what's the sort of main differences from the UK then?
So I lost you a little bit. You glitched.
Oh, sorry. So compared to, I don't know, someone buying in the UK, what's the differences over in Spain then? What should they be looking out for?
Brilliant question. So, firstly, when it comes down to dealing with real estate agents, one of the things that a lot of people aren't aware of is that in Spain, the seller pays the real estate agent. So because the seller pays the real estate agent, although you walked into the real estate agent and the real estate agent attends you as if you're the priority, anybody in business appreciates that actually you work for the person who pays you. So one of the reasons I became a property consultant, which is not a very widely spread job, is because actually as a property consultant, the buyer pays me and it's my job to work on their behalf. Whereas when you come to buy a property in Spain, you're with an estate agent, he's touring you for 3 or 4 days, you're building a rapport, he's showing you all these properties, and you think that actually, well, this is great because he's trying to find me what I want. But in real terms, he's really trying to either sell what the sellers want to sell. So at best, he's working for the seller. At worst, he's working for himself. Now, a great real estate agent, and there are many great real estate agents, their aim is to do both. They want the buyer to get a great deal, and they want the seller to get a great deal, and they take the commission in the middle. But if, like sometimes a business, you have to make a choice. What a lot of the Brits don't appreciate is that if they have to make a choice as to who gets what they want and who doesn't, well, they're going to make the choice of making sure they serve the person who pays them. So that means they're going to work in terms of making the deal favorable for the seller as opposed to you for the buyer, regardless to how much rapport you've built with them, how long they've driven around for 3 days, if they're showing you 15 properties a day and bought you breakfast, lunch and dinner. At the end of the day, their check comes from the seller. And that's, one of the first things that people don't really get their head around, the relationship with the estate agent, because the estate agent, obviously, it's their job to build relations and rapport with you. But actually, you've got to be well aware of where their check's coming from.
Excellent. So your book sets out the questions to ask and the things you should be looking out for. Is that right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You really need to. You really need to be digging in with the research to find out, more than anything, get the values right. You want to make sure that your values are aligned with the estate agent. If you're dealing with an estate agent, you need to find out a little bit about their record, if you can. We live in a wonderful age of, TripAdvisor and Checker Trade, and there are all kinds of organizations, or, we can use social media to get some sort of background on the estate agents. It's a shocking thing because there is this assumption that if somebody's been in the same place, had the same storefront in the same town for 20 years, that probably means they're reputable. I don't even think that's true in England. That's definitely not true here. It's just an assumption that we make, and isn't always necessarily the case. So it does take your time to do your research. I also go into a little bit in the book, again, that whole thing about, birds of a feather, taking advice from people in bars. There is an absolute truth to the fact that people, come on holiday and they do this transaction, which buying a property for most people is one of the biggest, most expensive transactions they'll make in their life. But they do it in holiday mode, thinking in holiday mode. So they'll be in a bar and they'll meet someone, I know someone who's got some properties for sale, and they'll go and look at properties with them, and then they'll say, oh, right, well, yeah, while we're having a look at properties, let's meet this guy because he can sort out, you don't need a lawyer, he'll sort out your conveyancing for you. and we laugh because, these are rational, some of them, well-heeled business people who would never, ever think of doing this in the UK. But out here, had a couple of cold beers or a couple of sangrias, been down to the beach, and they start approaching buying a property in holiday mode, and it's really shocking. So this is the other thing that I strongly advise, that, if you're really coming in to buy a property, you treat it as a business trip. You don't bring your kids. There's nothing worse as an estate agent of having to tear a family away from the pool or the sea to go looking at apartments. And while your two kids are arguing and fighting and you're having this intense rivalry within the family, you're not going to make good decisions. Even if you've got the best estate agent, lawyer, and broker in the world, you're going to make poor decisions because the environment in which you put yourself in. And it's, again, as we said, a very heavy financial commitment. So treat it with the respect and deference it deserves.
That sounds excellent advice, and from someone who's clearly seen examples of that not working out. Excellent. Well, I think I think I'm right in saying your book's in Amazon right now. Is that right? So people can download from Amazon.
Absolutely. So you can get it on Kindle. You can get the actual physical copy. Can I do the shameless plug? I've always wanted to do this.
You should. Oh, you've got it to hand. Excellent.
I'm a first-time author, so that's the reason for the shameless plug. I promise I'll try not to do this every time. Actually, there's a great feel to it, and just in case you were wondering, so yeah, that's actually on the cover.
Excellent.
But honestly, you know, as I said, what I really wanted to make sure, and I'll give the story again because it's so relevant to me. As I said, every time I've seen, you know, Trevor McDonald on ITV News with somebody pointing to a roundabout saying, "No, that's where my house used to be," you know, and I lost all my money, my life savings in Spain. My heart sunk.
Yeah. And
not just because, you know, it'd be harder for me to do my next sale, but because I knew that most of the time it really wasn't necessary. If you approach buying a property in Spain in the same way you would any property purchase or even any business transaction you would in the UK or your home country, whether you know in Germany or Holland or whatever, you get the same representation, get a good broker, get a good legal person to do your conveyancing. Do the correct due diligence. If the place needs a separate survey from what the bank is doing just for the mortgage lending, if you think there's other issues, you know, people just have this assumption that all the things that are available in the UK and other parts of Northern Europe aren't available in Spain. They're all available in Spain. So that's one of the reasons why, as a property consultant, I allow people to connect the dots. If you think you need a specialist survey, I'll get you one of those. If you think you need someone to come in and give you some quotes on the construction or the renovation beforehand, we get all of that done as well. So my aim is to make buying in Spain as safe and pedestrian as doing a property investment in the UK. And if you can't get hold of me because I'm a busy man, that's why I wrote a book.
Fantastic. Thank you, Felix. And I'll be putting a link somewhere near this video. So look forward to catching up soon.